Yo, what's up, everyone? Some of you may recall last month we embarked on a pretty interesting journey if you participated in the PTB public test build for DBD. A lot of pretty interesting changes that are going to be made to the game and revolving around end games, last stand Moris, unbreakable, the ability to pick yourself up, flashlights, whether or not like a lot of that was intended. A lot of changes. Okay, we're gonna go over some of those, and I want you to keep in the back of your mind. I want you to ask this question: do you think that behavior actually hates fun? One of the changes, if it goes through, I think a lot of survivors are going to be really upset about, and that's the change to flashlights. Behavior came out and said that part of their changes to flashlights revolve around people with epilepsy or that are more prone to seizures. So now as a survivor, you can't spam click your flashlight, you can't macro it. There's actually a really long delay, and it kind of makes using the flashlight feel pretty clunky if you're using it to click. And now most of you might say, oh, well, what does that really matter? A lot of survivors actually use the flashlight clicking to reposition their body, going for like a 360 or some sort of juke on the killer. But right now, it feels very clunky on the PTB. You burn a lot of your charges just by clicking your light because it's really delayed before it turns off. A really simple solution to this, however, would just make it so that when you unclick the light, it turns off immediately and there's a built-in delay before you can turn it back on. That would at least kind of save your juice and maybe actually allow you to use the light to reposition if you wanted to use it for spinning and whatnot. In terms of like macroing your light and clicking really fast, I don't really care. They can keep that as is, but the whole single click, it just feels very, 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 very off, and it probably needs to be updated a little bit. But two of the biggest changes coming to the game, now you might have seen one of them around Twitter. It's the new finishing Mori sort of last stand feature that behavior has been teasing for a while. Now, I first of all want you, if you've heard of this, if you're familiar with this, I want you to think back when you first learned about this. When we saw the sort of teaser for this, a lot of people were under the impression that it was going to be a 1v1 scenario, where when there's one survivor left in the trial, and they go down against the killer, they're instantly brought to some specific place on the map and and they'd be instantly moried. But if you played the PTB, you would realize that's not quite how it works. So two of the biggest changes are this Mori system, coupled with now any survivor can pick themselves up from the dying state. That's right. Basically, every survivor has Unbreakable. You might be asking yourself, what are they doing with Unbreakable, Soul Guard, the Boon Exponential, No Mither? Like, are you still going to be able to pick? Well, obviously, there's no reason for you to pick yourself up with those perks. Basically, they're all just going to hasten or quicken your ability to recover. So now Behavior has said that basically it's going to take you 45 seconds to recover from the dying state, and any survivor can do it at any point in the game. And as I said, perks like Unbreakable, Soul Guard, No Mither, they hasten your ability to pick yourselves up. So for instance, if you're using the perk Unbreakable, you can pick yourself up in about, I think it's 22.5 seconds, because that's half of 45. Kind of a crazy change. Now, to go along with this sort of like last stand Mori feature, they're actually removing all Mori offerings. And they're all just being updated to where you can get like bonus blood points for certain ones, depending on, how many people you're able to kill. And if you moried somebody, how many people are remaining in the trial when you mori somebody. So what that means is, one of the things that's kind of against what we thought was going to happen with this huge last stand change is there can be any amount of survivors in the game. But the minute the last survivor goes into the dying state, say you got two people on hook, a couple, one person on the ground in the dying state, and you down the last survivor, instantly all those other three are killed by the entity. And it immediately goes to that last stand Mori animation. This is kind of crazy. This has led a lot of people to create some YouTube videos. A lot of clips have been going viral on Twitter in regards to, killers being able to literally end the game in like 45, 50, 60 seconds. Because all you need is all survivors in the dying state, and the game's over. It ends the game. Obviously, now any survivor, regardless of perks, can pick themselves up. But if you have a killer like Nurse or Blight, somebody with mobility that can down very fast, you're running, maybe Starstruck, some sort of exposed build, it's honestly not that difficult to knock people to the ground. Now, this kind of goes back to my, I guess, my initial question is, does behavior kind of hate fun? Um, One of the easiest ways to sort of abuse this as killer is to tunnel one person out very, very, very quick. And once you have 3 survivors remaining, you hook one, slug one, and then basically down the third one, and the game's over. Quite a few streamers, content creators have been able to do this. There's tons of YouTube videos out there. It's kind of an insane change, and really, it's I really hope that behavior kind of goes back a little bit on this, because I don't want to see people trying to slug more with this change in hopes of ending the game in sub 2 or 3 minutes. I just don't think it's healthy. I think it promotes a playstyle that's kind of already used on Nurse and some killers, and it's very, very boring. Don't get me wrong. I love the ability for every survivor to pick themselves up whenever, but I would almost trade that if it meant that in order for a last stand Mori to take place, only one survivor would need to be remaining in the trial. You couldn't do it with 2 or 3 or 4 depending on their health states, doesn't matter. It's only 1v1 in a 1v1 situation, end game scenario. I just think it makes more sense. And the one thing that I'm actually kind of sad about, and this is, again, kind of ties back to my, I guess, is behavior sort of aware of the most fun parts of the game? Honestly, the end game is the most fun. Specifically when you're trying to make a clutch escape or a clutch save. If you're in the exit gate and you're taking hits for people, trying to get a flashlight save on somebody who's like in the exit gate getting picked up last second. Maybe you're trying, if you're familiar with what heel teching is, when you're healing a survivor in the dying state, so the killer swings at you, you let go of the survivor, and then that survivor can crawl a little bit while the killer wastes time wiping their, well, I guess their failed M1. You're not really going to have that with these sort of endgame situations if this last stand change goes through. A lot more people are just going to be leaving, because the minute that the last person goes down, even if everyone else is in the exit gate, you all die. Yeah, RIP slug races. Like some of those things, now obviously I'm not referring to the slug races, but some of those things are, to me, what makes DBD. Endgame saves, taking hits for people right at the exit gate. I personally think it should just, this whole endgame Mori system, last stand system, should just be 1v1. Or at the very least, if every survivor in the trial is in the exit gate, maybe it doesn't activate. So that way you can have these last second chances to save one another, to perform heal techs, to take hits. I just think that kind of like promotes more interesting gameplay. And honestly, like if they get rid of this sort of, everybody has baseline unbreakable, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Realistically, I think the only thing that needs to happen in regards to survivors being slugged out on the ground for 4 minutes is finally give us the option to give up. Give survivors the option to let go, to die on the ground if you've been slugged for like a minute or you're fully recovered. Give us a prompt or allow us to like just go next. I don't think it's really that big of a change. You can do that if you're on the hook. I think it should apply to the ground as well. But yeah, these are just kind of some of my thoughts in regards to the new Mori system. I guess flashlights being a little clunky, and then I guess, this baseline unbreakable. I don't think it's going to make the game more interesting. I don't think it's going to add a dynamic. It might be kind of, I guess, a little bit neat because it's going to be a pretty big change, like, right away. But again, if all you have are killers just trying to end the game as fast as possible, and people are slugging even more, like, yeah, we're going to be able to pick each other up, but it's just going to be a boring playstyle. It's just going to be a boring, play through, or like a play out of the game, because you know what the killer's going to be doing. As soon as somebody has one survivor on hook and they're sitting at the hook waiting for survivors, it's like, okay, well, you're just literally camping, trying to get 2 or 3 slugs and then end the game instantly in a Mori sort of fashion. Don't get me wrong, I think the Mori system's cool. I think it should be held just strictly for that 1v1 situation when there's one survivor left. And here's a small tinfoil hat theory. I think the reason they're going through with this is actually maybe to sell, no, hear me out, to sell in the future different Mori animations. Think about it, right? right now there's not really that much of a benefit to sell a Mori animation because you're not really guaranteed to get it to work every game, and sometimes you have to bring in an offering or a certain perk anyway. But now if the Mori system, like this Last Stand system, was baseline, now you might have incentive to order some interesting new Mori animations for your favorite killer. Again, this is just a theory, but it kind of checks out, honestly. It'd probably be a really, really smart way for them to make 5, 10, 15 bucks every single time somebody wants a new Mori animation equipped to their killer. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I stream pretty regularly over on Twitch, about 5 days a week. All the info is in my socials. Again, thank you all for watching the video, and I hope to see you again. Peace.